I'm Vanna from TBR Trio, and in this episode of Tales in Focus, we are at Charm City Books in Baltimore, Maryland. Today, we're sitting down with Golden Angel, a romance author known for steamy-filled stories enough to make you blush. Before we dive in, please note that the books we'll be discussing do contain mature and potentially triggering themes. We encourage our viewers to always read the trigger warnings before reading the books and or listening to our interview. Last but not least, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming author interviews. Now, please join me in welcoming Golden Angel.
Hi!
Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you feeling?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you and talk all about your steamy but amazing books. And there are quite a lot of books.
There are.
Yes. Before we dive into all of that, I do have a couple icebreaker questions to kind of loosen you up a little bit. If you can swap lives with any fictional character for a day, who would it be?
So this one is always such a struggle for me anytime, because there's one thing about books is there's always stuff going on in them that I'm like, well, I'd want to be this character, except yeah.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I think Clifford the Big Red Dog lives a pretty great life. So I thought that he would be the one I would choose.
That was my favorite show as a child. And you are so right. Clifford lived the best
He does.
life.
I was like, because I'm thinking about all my favorite books and I'm like, oh my gosh, all this stuff that happens in them. I'm like, the worlds are cool, but do I really want to live there?
Probably not.
Yeah.
You want like a laid back, easy life.
I want a laid back, easy life.
That's
and
right.
Clifford's life looks good to me.
And he's so big.
He's so big.
But he's so
I think
cute.
it would just be fun too. Like to be the size of a house, just walking around, giant dog. Everyone wants to pet you. I mean, this sounds great.
It's a great life he lives. All right, awesome. If you could only eat one snack for the rest of your life while writing, what would it be?
Cheese.
Cheese. Okay, is there any specific type of cheese?
String cheese.
Okay, all right, that's fair. It's easy, it's convenient, right?
Protein. Like
that is true, yep. Dairy, all of
Yeah.
it. Okay, awesome. All right, and last question here. If one of your main characters walked into this interview right now, how would they introduce themselves?
So yeah, I wasn't sure like what this meant.
Like if
It's like,
someone were to come in and be like, hey guys, I'm here, I'm so-and-so.
oh, well, the first character I always think of her is usually Angel. So she'd probably very similar to me. She looks like me. She acts like me. She has the same sense of humor. She's totally, sort of based on me. So very similar. Just like, hey, I'm Angel. How are you?
By the way, I'm here.
By the way, I'm here. I always tell people, we are enough alike that when people join my Facebook group, if they have already read The Sassy Submissive, within a day or two, they will be like, is Angel based on you? And if they haven't read The Sassy Submissive, as soon as they get around to it, it's like very quickly, hey, so I noticed that you have a lot in common with this character you wrote. I'm like, yeah, it was one of my very early books.
Did you purposely write the character?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I wanted a character, it was very much like write what you know, I guess. And when I first wrote that, this was one of my earliest books, and I just had this idea of like, I wanted more representation. I'm half Asian. I'm not a super skinny girl. I'm not a plus sized girl. I'm right in the middle. I felt very underrepresented. And so I wanted a heroine that was like me, because that was something that I didn't really get to experience growing up, or even very much as an adult. Like there are not a lot of half Korean heroines running around the book world. And I gave her, she had hair like mine. She had the same sense of humor. She wore t-shirts. Like I really put a lot of, it's not the story of how my husband and I got together, but it is a lot of me in that character. And apparently it comes through enough that people who just know me online recognize it.
What was the name of this book?
The Sassy Submissive.
All right, if you want to know all about Golden, The the sassy submissive. That's where you start.
Yep. Yep.
All right, awesome. Well, let's just jump right into how you started. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your writing background. What inspired you to start writing?
So I started writing on a website, literatica.com, back in 2005, and I started writing. I'm a speed reader, like I read really quickly, and I got to college and at a time when that was my first experience having a computer to myself, like when I was growing up, like I remember when my mom first brought home a computer. I was in elementary school and it was this big deal. And so we had a computer at home from the time I was in elementary school, but of course, it was in my parents' office. So I could use it. I would play Oregon Trail and all that stuff. And I would get onto, AIM and the chat rooms and things like that. But my first experience with having a computer where no one was looking over my shoulder was college. The very first thing I did was I went looking for porn. And because I was just like, didn't have access to that at home. And so I very quickly decided that it was not for me. But one of the sites that I went on to, Literotica, had both the videos and had stories. And I was like, well, what are these stories? And that's when I discovered, because I was always a big reader. I loved reading. I loved books and I would just inhale. I mean, I just inhale books is the way that I describe my reading process. And so I went onto this website and there were just thousands of stories, and I very quickly figured out which were my favorite. They're sorted by genre, I guess, or like the trope. And so very quickly figured out what were my favorite categories that they had on the website. It took me about 2 years, but I read every single story in my 2 favorite categories on the website. And new stories were being posted every day, but it was they have like 20 categories on the website or something. So there's only 1 or 2 new ones in each category every day. And they weren't always exactly what I wanted to read. And I started getting very frustrated and wanting what I wanted to read. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I've always liked writing. Why don't I just try writing what I want to read? Yeah. And so I did that. And my first story got a lot of really very supportive feedback from readers on the website, which was really nice because that does not always happen, especially on a free website. The meanest people are the people who are reading your stuff for free.
Of course.
But yeah, I got a lot of great feedback. I started writing more and more for it. And so that was in 2005 was when I started writing for the website. And then eventually I started writing longer stories instead of just like chapter length short stories on there. Started writing like multi-chapter because again, I was writing what I wanted to read and I wanted books. And I actually at this time didn't realize that books like this existed. And then everything kind of came together at the same point where I was writing a very long story for the website that people were very invested in, and several readers started asking if I could indie publish it. And I was like, well, let me look into this. I don't know how difficult it is. It turns out putting the book up for sale is incredibly easy. Okay. That's the easiest part. So I said, okay. And I took the story, I put it up for sale, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. And I think Google Play were like the 3 that I had access to at that point. Mm-hmm. And then eventually I would add Draft to Digital and Kobo and get onto Apple and everything like that. But back then it was at the same time that all that was happening, because people were asking me to self-publish, I started going, so there's books. So I started looking for the books that I wanted to read. Mm-hmm. And discovering that there were actually quite a few of them. And my mother-in-law gave me a Kindle. So I had I had access to my first e-reader. I was like putting my stuff out, reading all these things. That was probably the best day of your life. Oh my God. It opened up a whole new world to me because I had always read a lot, but like the collecting of the books, like I just didn't have space for more books at that point. It's tragic. So having e-readers was just amazing. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh my gosh, now I can have as many books as I want. I don't have to carry a stack of them in my bag or my purse or whatever. Don't have to find shelf space for them. I still love my paperbacks. I still buy paperbacks. I still read them.
They're the trophy show. They're the trophy books that you put on your shelf.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes I just like the feel of a book in my hand.
Yeah.
But I still do I read a lot on my e-reader. So yeah.
Can I ask how many books? So you say you're a fast reader. How many
Yes.
books can you read in like a day?
I mean, it depends on the length of the book. But to give you an idea, Sunrise on the Reaping came out, and I got my copy of it when I was heading home on the airport. So we picked up the book probably around 10 p.m. Our flight was at 11. I finished it about an hour into the flight. And my friend who was with me, she's like, okay, I thought I read fast, but you're making me really angry. I was like, I know, I'm sorry. My husband refuses to watch me read. It makes him like legitimately
You're
enraged.
Probably like turning the page like this.
Yes. It's and on the e-reader actually slows me down because there's less words on the e-reader page than on a paperback page. So I actually read paperbacks twice as fast as I can read on the e-reader.
You know what's crazy? Because a lot of people say that they read faster on Kindle rather than paperback.
So faster on Kindle.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm a very slow reader.
So that's interesting that you read faster on paperback.
So it's the way that they test for like speed reading to like find out how fast a reader you are is they will give that. We did this in like 8th grade, I think. And there was like a paragraph on the page and the teacher was like, okay, now this word in the middle of the paragraph, focus on that word. And while you're looking at that word, try to read above, below, and the two, to side to side. And most people can read a few words in front of and behind and like a line or two above and below while focusing on that word. I can read the entire paragraph. And I know.
I am so jealous.
I am so jealous. What?
It's so much easier.
Oh my goodness.
Here's the thing though, writing style matters so much when I'm reading though, because if it's a stuff like Charles Dickens, Oliver Twist took me like a month to get through because there's something about his writing style that it just doesn't work right for my brain. If something really clicks for my brain, like Suzanne Collins, for me, I'm not reading words. It's like watching a movie. This does mean that I occasionally miss little details. I usually go back and read, like when I first read something, I literally do inhale it. And it's almost like when you eat something so fast that you don't fully taste it. And I'm just like, because I'm reading it, I need to know what's happening. I'm reading it so fast, I get to the end and then I start over. And it usually takes me a little bit longer the second time because I'm savoring it that time. But I retain the information more than most people think is fair, considering how fast I read.
That's what I'm saying. Like when you're reading so fast, do you like take in all, like not all the details, but like you get a general idea of like
more than a general. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know. There's in 8th grade, same teacher, because like I think she just wanted to know. I think looking back, I think I might have been the reason for that test because she had this like list of books and you read the books, you take the quiz on the thing, on the computer, and then you got like extra credit for it. And it was like 100 books. I knocked it out within like 2 months. And so she was like, there's no way, but I was getting 100% on all of the tests and I was taking 1 or 2 of the tests a day because I was just going through I was like, yeah, extra credit, books, gimme like new books to read.
I am so impressed right now. Wow.
It's a talent.
It is a talent. My mom, according to my mom, and I don't remember this, but according to my mom, when I was in 2nd grade, I was part of a program where they did teach us to speak, to like read faster. She says she remembers me like sitting there and I was like training my eyes like to go to like read as I was like turning, like, so she said she would watch me like pull my finger down the page of a book.
And you were just like
in like 2nd or 3rd grade and training myself to kind of take in the information more quickly. And it was part of a program I was in at school. That was something they taught us. So I don't remember that, but of course I'm like, I believe it because I'm like,
sounds about
I don't know how
sounds like me.
Right. Well, it sounds like something I would be into. And also I'm like, it would be a little weird if I was just like this fast with nothing, like no help from anyone.
That's very impressive.
So do you write as fast as you read?
Just about. I type a little over 100 words per minute with a very low, I forget what it's called, but like very low mistake amount. And I have had people ask, people like, oh, dictate, and I'm like, I can't do dictation. One, something about hearing my own voice totally throws me off, but also I can legitimately type faster than I can talk. And especially when I'm like really in the flow and I'm not having to pause and think about, like, if I know exactly what I'm writing, like my goal, I could write more than this, but this is what I have the energy for. My goal every day is about 3,000 words. And when I'm really in the flow, I can knock that out in about 2 hours.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive for like per day. I know
Yes.
like a lot of authors sometimes it's harder for them to
Yeah.
write a couple hundred words. So 3,000.
Yeah.
Wow. I am amazed.
I mean,
oh
the
my
typing
gosh.
speed helps a lot. That's a
Yeah.
part of it. And also, a lot of the time when I go in, by the time I start writing, I know exactly if I need to stop and think about what I'm doing, I can't. It's not that fast. So it's very much like I know exactly what I'm writing today. I am feeling the characters. I am in it. Everything's going to plan. The characters aren't fighting me. They're not going off script. It's all happening like it's supposed to, and I can just go.
Do you like plot it out when you write, or do you kind of just write whenever you feel like the characters are talking to you and this is what you're gonna write today?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So I have to have an outline. If I
Okay.
don't have an outline, I can't write. It's kind of that whole like knowing where I'm going. On the other hand, my books are very character driven, and they do not always agree with the outline that I have laid out for them. And so a lot of the time I will end up having to rewrite the outline about halfway through the book because the characters have gone so far off script that the outline no longer makes sense. I've had to do it earlier in the book. I think that one of the books I wrote, I wrote this very nice outline, and within one paragraph of the book, I was like, nope, need a new outline. This character is not what I thought she was. She was completely different than I thought she was going to be, and the outline did not work at all. And then I have another book, Arabella's Taming, where I rewrote the outline 6 times because every few chapters she was just like, I'm going to do this instead of what you
want me to do.
What you want me to do. And I'm like, oh, but it's better. Like, that's the thing is like, if it wasn't better, I always say, like, I've never won an argument with a character in my head because the way that they want to go is always better. It suits them better. And part of it is that, like, as I write, I get to know them better. And so the decisions that are being made in the moment are not always what I outlined for them.
Can you talk, because I always find it fascinating when authors are telling, like, they always say, like, the character speaks to me in my head, or like they tell me where the story is going to go.
Yeah.
Can you just tell us a little bit about how that works in your head? Because I'm genuinely like, how do characters speak to you? Like, I'm so amazed with that concept. It's just, walk us through how that works.
It's almost like having a bunch of friends in my head.
Okay.
And so, and you're like, if you're with your friend somewhere, you're at the fair and you want to go to the Ferris wheel and they want to go get a snack. And you're like, no, but the Ferris wheel. And like, it is almost like a physical sensation of being tugged of like, no, I want to go get a snack. And because like I can, as I'm writing along, like I might think, okay, they're going to get into this situation. They're going to do this thing. This is going to be their response. But then we get there and it's like, and I can like feel like a resistance, and it will stop me from being able to type. And if you try to force it, it does feel like forcing it. It starts feeling like I'm like trying to drag the words out of myself instead of them just flowing. But if I can figure out where the disconnect is, if I can start going, okay, well, if that's the wrong way, then what are the other options? What feels right for this character? There's this one time that I was writing a story and I was like, we need to move this along. There is plot, there's stuff that has to be happening. And the hero is like, nope, want a BJ. And I was like, there's plot, like I'm going to be over my word count. Like I'm sitting there thinking these words, like in my head, I'm like, I need to move this story along. And I can just feel that resistance of nope, want a BJ scene. And I literally could not figure out what to write next until after I had written that scene. And then it was like, okay, now we can move on and go forward.
That's very interesting.
It's very frustrating sometimes.
Probably. It's probably like having a bunch of like, it's like voices in your head and you're like, which one do I listen to
It really
first?
is. Yeah. Well, except for it's not which one do I listen to first. It's like, I know I want to do this thing, but if it's not what the character wants to do, I can't figure out the next words to type because they want to go down this path.
Right.
And so, but if I don't fight it and I just follow the path that feels right for the character, everything flows much better.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. It's just,
I mean, I am very jealous of my friends who do not understand this process and are like, what do you mean the character won't do what you want them to do? They're your character. You just write the thing. And I'm like, what is your life like? Like, that sounds so much easier.
wow, like I wish.
I wish, I know. Yeah. But I mean, like I said, they often, it makes the story better.
Right,
I think,
yeah.
For me, like when the characters really take over, that's how I know I've gotten into a really good spot in the story and knowing who the character is and feeling what's right and wrong for them. And that's when they start to feel more real. And I think that comes through a lot to the readers too. Mm-hmm. So,
and I'm sure in your head, they're like, I told you so.
Yes. Yeah.
They're like, okay, fine. You were right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, you started writing in 2012.
Yes.
And you have written 100 or so books.
Yes.
That's fair to say. And they're all romance, but they're different types of romance. So you have, I guess, three-ish categories. You have contemporary BDSM, historical romance.
I have some kinky alien.
Yes, it was like not fantasy, but like sci-fi.
Yeah.
Right. They're three very different genres. So please tell me, what made you want to go into these three different areas of romance?
My undiagnosed ADHD.
Okay, that's a good answer. Good answer. All right.
It's, I can't focus. Part of it is, again, just the way my brain works. Like, one thing that I do is tell other authors is like, you really have to work with how your brain works. And I've had friends who've been like, oh, I'm going to go from this series to this series. And I was like, okay, well, why? And they're like, well, because that's what you do. I'm like, don't do what I do. Yeah. I do it this way because that's how my brain works. It is not what I would recommend as best practices for other authors to jump from genre to genre and world to world, unless it is really difficult for you to stay. And there are a lot of authors who it's really difficult to stay writing the same thing over and over again. Like the stay in your lane advice that a lot of authors get can actually be really stifling for some of us. And so what I do is I have all these different genres, but if you read the books, you're getting a lot of the same things, regardless of the genre that you're reading. You're going to get a big group of friends and family. You're going to get a lot of laughter. I tend to write high heat, high humor. They're all going to be, all of those are kinky. They all have, like the big group of friends and family finding their happily ever afters. I really like found family. There's going to be a lot of grumpy sunshine. There's going to be girl time. Girls' nights are like one of my favorite things to write.
I love that.
It's like in contemporaries, it's girls' nights. In the historicals, it's tea parties. But you get that same, so regardless of what you're doing, you get that same thing. I think I have a very strong voice, and that comes through in my writing as well. Like you know that you're reading one of my books. And I do also, I have another pen name, Sinistre Ange, which I write, that's for like my really like does not fit in any of these categories, experimental, mostly dark or really niche fetish stuff goes. And that's, but between the two pen names, I have about 100. So I'm closing in on 80 with Golden Angel, and I'm a little over 20 with Sinistre Ange.
That's awesome. That's a lot of books.
It's a lot of books, yes.
Do you see yourself kind of going back to one of the genres, or do you kind of just feel like you were saying kind of where your head is at that moment?
So I have to go back and forth. So a lot of the time I will be writing a contemporary, and then I know that the next book coming up is going to be one of my historicals. So I stay in the same world. So if you read one of my contemporaries, all my contemporary series are set in the same world. Same thing with the historical. So there's going to be crossover characters. There's going to be cameos. You don't have to have read all the series, but if you do, then you'll get to see characters from other series that you've read, and you'll get hints about what's happening in the other series. which is that those are the books I like to read. So those are the books I write.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they are okay. So yeah, they're set in the same world. So I do return to the same worlds over and over again, but I need a break from them. So
Right.
while I'm writing a contemporary, I'm thinking about, like, I'm kind of processing everything that I just wrote for the most recent historical, and then after I'm done writing the contemporary, I'll be back in the historical world. And then occasionally I take breaks in between to write something completely different, like a palette cleanser. That's where the Sinistra Ange stuff comes in. That's where the aliens came in.
Aliens are a nice palette cleanser.
Yeah, exactly. It's something a little different.
Yeah.
Something a little different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that way I don't feel like I'm stuck is a big thing for me. I have tried to write 2 books back to back set in the same series. And the second book was just so difficult.
Yeah.
I don't know, something about it. It's like I need that time to really think about everything. And I think so this is why I write so quickly, is because instead of thinking about the book while I'm writing it, I'm thinking about that historical book while I write the next historical book while I write my contemporary.
Okay.
And then once I'm writing the historical, I'm thinking about everything that just happened in the contemporary that I finished and what I'm going to do in the next contemporary. And so the writing and the thinking are very separate for me.
You have many tabs open in your mind.
So many.
Oh my goodness. Like, you're writing this book, but your mind is like, okay, I have an idea for this other book that I'm going to write. That's crazy. That no wonder the outlining comes into play, because you have to,
I have to write down some of these ideas and things.
So do you do that when you're writing like the historical romance, and then you have this other idea and you're like, okay, let me just take a step back and like write it? Do you do that, or do you just kind of like
sometimes it's usually more like I'm like wandering around, so I have like a notebook in my purse and I'll like write down ideas in that, or I'll send myself a voice message and be like, hey, you need to have Brenda set her house on fire with a flamethrower. I got inspired by this real thing that I saw online. It's this elderly couple, something to do with the flamethrower and the fire department being called, and they were playing fun games with their spicy time. And I was like, oh, that's perfect for Brenda, which is the grandmother in my book Danger and Dominance. Everyone loves Brenda, so she's
funny.
Yeah, and that was one of those things where it's like, you know, sometimes stuff happens in books that you don't plan for. So Brenda was supposed to be a kind of a 2-off character. She was going to be in 2 books because she is the grandmother to 2 of the characters. And then after that, she would go on her way. But she's been such a reader favorite that I'm going to end up putting her in the entire series. So now I'm coming up with new ideas of things I can do for Brenda. And then I'll just have like a list of them that I can pull from as I'm writing the books to see what works within the book that I'm working on.
You should just create a whole spin-off of Brenda, like just
I've
Brenda's story.
I've thought about it. I don't know exactly what it would be, but I have thought about it.
The Nick Club goes wild.
Yes. Well, I did realize I want to incorporate her book club into more of my future books, because her book club sounds pretty hilarious, and I think it would be fun to get the heroines of my book series involved in this book club of
that would
really
be a good way for them to
filthy
come together.
grandmas.
Yeah. Well, we were saying it. You have a lot of books.
Yes.
So if you were to recommend readers who have never read your books before but want to dive into your world, what book or series would you recommend them to go to first?
So what I usually do is I start by asking them a question, because I get this question a lot at like book signings and stuff, and I will say, do you prefer contemporary or historical? Okay. Because a lot of people, if they read historical, they're really not into contemporary, or if they read contemporary, they're really not into historical. And so that's kind of they are 2 such separate genres that I'm like, I want them to start with something that they'll actually pick up. So if they say contemporary, I usually tell them to start with The Sassy Submissive, partly because that's one of the earlier books.
It's you in the book.
It's me in the book. It is a big favorite of a lot of my readers. You know, I'll do a poll every so often in my Facebook group asking about who people's favorite characters are. Angel and Adam are always at the top, in like the top 3. And it's a really good introduction to the world, because it is an earlier series. And so it's actually not the first series set in that world, but you get to meet the other character, you get to meet the characters from the first series. So if you feel like going back and reading that, you can, but that one is MFM, which again, not everybody's into. Angel and Adam are very much like their MF. I think a lot of people find them very relatable. You get that girls' night, you get grumpy sunshine, which is like my favorite trope to write. So it's a lot of my favorite things packed into a book, and they're just hilarious together. They crack me up. And if you haven't read kink before, it's a good introduction book to that because she's new to the scene. I like to, for my contemporaries, I'm very aware of like SSC, safe, sane, and consensual, and RAC, which is risk-aware consensual kink. And doing, one thing I like to say is like I love reading kinky billionaires, but I don't write them. I really wanted my books to kind of reflect more real people with everyday problems and jobs and things like that who just happen to be kinky. So it's more representative of the people that I know in the scene.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so that's where I usually suggest people start because that'll get you into the world, and from there you can just go go through the series, pick and choose if you want to go read the MFM, if you want to read a later in life series set in that world, if you want to add the suspense. I now have like the kinky suspense book set in that world. And then for my historicals, I usually recommend people start with A Season for Treason unless they're like, I like dark romance, in which like case I'm like, go ahead, Birching His Bride, enjoy.
That's probably where I would start.
Yeah. but again, not everyone likes dark. So I'm like, A Season for Treason is like a good place to step into. It is, it's historical. So the consent is always a little bit more iffy with historical anyway, because you just don't have... It's a completely different time period, different society. But again, like A Season for Treason has a little bit of everything. It's not too heavy on the kink. So if someone's totally new to it, it's a good introduction for them. It's an introduction to the world. It's got a little bit of mystery. And then it has all of the favorite things that I like to write for historical. It's got naughty times in the carriage, the tea parties. It's got a little bit of boy bonding between the heroes. And some really funny moments, which again, and scandal equals marriage, which is my favorite historical romance trope.
That sounds very fun. Well, most of your books do have like that kinky aspect, which is, I have a question for you later, but you have like a tagline that that's but we'll get to that in a minute. What I did want to ask you first is, what would you say is like the hardest part of writing like the kinky, like adding that part into your romance books?
I think the most difficult part is balancing the fiction and the reality, because I never want to write something that's going to cause someone to choose to do something unsafe. And I've had so many people tell me that my books were kind of their entryway into that niche of the genre. Nice. I've had so many people tell me that they read the books and discovered something about themselves that they weren't aware of previously. I've had people tell me that that it gave them got this one email from this woman that almost made me cry. She that my book gave her the language to be able to talk to her husband about her needs. Nice. In their marriage. And that's all. It's amazing. It also feels like a lot of responsibility some days, especially because I would hate that if someone read and not that it is my responsibility, but I would hate that someone saw something in one of my books and made a decision based on that and put themselves in an unsafe situation. So I try really hard, especially in the contemporaries, to make sure that people know about things like safe words, that they know about things like SSC and RAC, that they know about things like classes and BDSM clubs, and that there are mentors, and how to spot the abusers who unfortunately are part of the scene as well, how to spot unsafe situations and unsafe dynamics, and also to be aware that there's a lot of ways to do it. That's what I think that's probably my favorite thing about writing these kinds of books, is that there really is no one true way to have a kinky dynamic. And I love being able to explore the different dynamics and the different things that you can do in a scene in each of my books. I like to give each of my doms and subs like a very specific kink to explore in each book, so that they get to play with something new, I get to play with something new. And yeah, so that's probably been the most enjoyable part to me is being able to really showcase how different each of the relationships can be and the different things you can do. And then, the hard part is trying to balance that with the responsibility of making it both appealing as a fiction book, but not encouraging unsafe behavior.
Of course. But it's also like how you were saying, like, one reader reached out to you and said, like, your words taught her how to communicate to her husband.
Yeah.
So it's like helps people like understand, like, okay, maybe it's like they know it, but they don't know how to explain it, or maybe they want it, but they don't know how to ask for it, type of thing. And you leave room for like exploration, discovery, and all that, which is really cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, that was an amazing
How
side
did that make
effect.
you feel?
Oh my God, I cried.
Okay.
I cried.
Yes.
I sometimes you just get emails that you're just like, you're like, this is why I do it,
Yeah.
and not that I didn't know that I was ever going to get an email like that, but like now that I know that that's possible, I'm never going to be able to stop, because people will open up to you about like her telling me about her and her husband and how that helped her. I've had readers reach out to me to tell me that I got them through breast cancer or a hospital stay or a terrible time in their life after divorce, after losing someone important to them, after, and they'll tell you how your book touched them. And it's just, I mean, there's literally no better feeling.
That's awesome. That's great. It's so rewarding
It
to like
is.
see like, wow, my books are making an impact on somebody. That's awesome.
And and I think that's really important to really be aware of, especially because there are a lot of people in the world who will kind of like poo-poo romance, and say it's not really important. It's not literature. It's not changing the world. I'm like, no, but it is. It's maybe not making like a big world impact, but there's these moments, and it's the really human moments. And I mean, honestly, just going and seeing when you see men or news articles about like the male loneliness epidemic and how women's standards are too high and all this stuff, and they blame romance novels, and I'm like, good. If romance novels are out there raising women's expectations for what we deserve in a relationship, good, because the bar is on the floor.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's
it should be higher. Step up.
Well, it sets the standard,
Yeah.
And then we're like, see, this is what you guys should be doing.
Exactly. So I love that, it is very much about human moments and human connection. And it changes. I think it does change the world in a small scale way, which is a much more intimate way. It's like personal. Yeah. And it doesn't have to, you can also just write books that people just read and they enjoy it. And honestly, that makes my day too. If I can make someone's day a little bit brighter because they enjoyed reading my book, that's wonderful.
It's still impactful.
Exactly.
Still making someone smile, making someone's day better, right? So no matter how big or how small, it's still something that matters and makes an impact. So that's what's more important. I want to go back to this tagline of yours. Her tagline is a self-described bibliophile with a kinky side.
Yes.
So first of all, love that. Second of all, so what does that mean for you as a storyteller, and how does it shape your books and the romance in your books?
Well, that is very specific to Golden Angel. I did try writing one series that didn't have that was completely vanilla. It didn't really work out. No one reads it. It makes me sad. So I'm actually moving that over to a new pen name, which will be more centered towards steamy and non-kinky. But for Golden Angel, like that is one of the hallmarks of my book, is that it's going to be exploring some kind of power dynamics. It's going to be exploring the dichotomy of pleasure and pain and how they work together. Honestly, it's amazing how the human body works. I get really interested in things like how our brains work, how our actual nerve endings work, what happens when they get overwhelmed and you hit that point of not being able to tell the difference between pleasure and pain. Those are things that I really like to explore. And so all of my books, except for this one series that I'm moving over to a new pen name, I've realized that's what people want from Golden Angel. They want the kinky bend, and I am happy to give it to them.
She's like, I'm here for it. I serve you guys.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about your books. So your most recent book is Danger and Dominance, and it is the first book in the Black Fox Security Doms series.
Yes.
So tell us what the book is about. Yes, it's very pretty. Tell us what the book is about and what your goal is for the series.
So this is connected to my my main world. This is my first book that I moved out of DC. I took a character who she was introduced in book 3 of the Masters of Marquis series, and she was supposed to just be a throwaway character. The heroine, I needed the heroine to interrupt a scene in the club so that she could get in trouble, but she was doing it for a good reason, which is that Cassidy, the submissive, had said her safe word. And the dom that she was with ignored it. And so the heroine interrupts the scene, saves Cassidy, and they kick the bad dom out. And so he becomes Cassidy's ex-boyfriend after that. But at the time, that was supposed to be it. Like, he was supposed to get kicked out, so she was safe, and then we move on with that story. But when the book came out, so many people, I got so many messages and comments from people asking if Cassidy was going to get her own book and what happened to Cassidy and is she going to be okay?
Wow.
And I was like, okay. It was a very short scene, but apparently she made an impact. And I was like, okay, well, I had already figured out my books for the whole series. So I was like, she can't get one in this, but having an ex, and I knew I wanted to write some BDSM, but with a suspense plot line for my next series. And so I was like, well, she's got this abusive ex that is set up for like stalker and danger and a little bit of suspense. That's perfect. So I decided she would be the first book of my new series. So if you read the Masters of Marquis series, you will meet Cassidy, see her get saved, and then hear about her ex kind of disappearing for a little bit and then coming back and stalking her and starting to harass other members of the club. And so at the end of that series, she moves up to Pittsburgh to basically one of the main characters. His cousin works for the Black Fox security firm. And his wife runs a women's shelter. And so the DC contingent sends her up to live in Pittsburgh and be protected by the security firm, and Naomi, who runs the women's shelter, is there to help as well. And so that was, it worked out really well because so many people wanted Cassidy to get a book. And then I was like, oh, well, this is great because I can move this character from my DC club, which we've been in for 3 series now, so people are really used to it. And I can help use that, hopefully readers will be good with following her up to Pittsburgh and getting to know this other club more that I've created up there. And so if you don't want to read the other series, you don't have to. You can just jump right in and you will get a little bit of the backstory about Cassidy's ex, the situation she came from. And so David, who's my hero, is he's the leader of the Black Fox security firm. He's like Captain America. Like, he's such a good guy.
Love that.
He always wants to do the right thing. He believes in doing the right thing. He believes in law and order. He believes, but he's a little bit black. Because of that, he's a little bit like black and white in his views on things. And so before he meets Cassidy, and he's had an experience too, where a woman that he cared about was in a domestic violence situation, and during the trial, after she was hospitalized, and then during the trial, it came out that the guy had a pattern, and the previous woman had not gone to the police, and so she got into this relationship, even though the pattern was there, it wasn't documented. So she got into this relationship with him without knowing. So David is a little bit like, yes, obviously we should protect this woman who's coming to us, but also she didn't do these things. He's very much the things that you're supposed to do. And so he's very much a rule follower, and he's being put into a situation where it was actually for her protection to not follow the rules. Like, if the police even listen to her, because unfortunately that's not the experience of a lot of women who report abuse, and especially when you're in a relationship where supposedly you've agreed to be treated in a certain way, like, abusers can really take advantage of that. So that was part of the BDSM side that I wanted to explore. And then, so it was him having to kind of come to grips with the fact that the world doesn't always work the way it's supposed to. And then also have to come to grips with the fact that, like, obviously she's a client. Like, he's not supposed to be getting involved with her, but the more time he spends with her, the more he likes her, the more he wants to be involved with her. And so,
which we can expect. It
yes,
usually happens.
exactly.
Love that.
And so he fights it hard for a little bit, and then they, but then we start slipping into the gray areas. And so he loosens up a little bit, but he's also still he's always going to be he will always do the right thing, come save the day, at least try to do the right thing. Like, I love him so much. He's such a do-gooder.
Well, and you compared him to Captain America, so I'm sold on that already. But he sounds like a really like powerful, but also like he knows what's right and wrong, and will stand for it. Oh my God, I love it. I'm obsessed with him already. So just out of curiosity, your readers, what were their reactions when they found out that you were giving Cassidy her own?
Oh, they're so excited. They're all very protective of her too. So
I love that.
They started off not liking David so much. But for me, that's half the fun of it. I'm like, he's not really he's supposed to be a hard ass in the beginning. He's supposed to, because he has to get past these ideas and these views that he have, which are ideas and views that are held by a lot of people. And one of the things that I like to do in my books is I really like to write them like the world the way I think it should be. So when he's challenged by the idea that doing the right thing in this case is not actually doing what he perceives as the right thing, he accepts it, but that I do because I want that to be like, it's okay to think that this is the right thing to do, and then to realize that actually you were wrong and that wasn't the right thing to do, and that there are times and circumstances where that's not the right thing to do, and that it's okay to be flexible, and that it's okay, you still get to keep your moral code, you still get to know right and wrong and feel very strongly, but also living in the real world, like a lot of things aren't black and white, and being able to accept that and deal with it in a way that is accepting, and that isn't like pushing back or fighting it or angry about it, or just going, okay, this is what we have to deal with and let's move on. That was very much what I wanted for him. And so he won a lot of readers over. But yeah, they were very protective of Cassidy because they'd been with her. Yeah. They'd been with her through the whole previous series.
That's awesome. Well, and then, she challenges him, right?
She does,
That's what we love to see, because we love that and I'm sure like she has like a character arc in this book.
She does. I gave this poor girl so I have diagnosed generalized anxiety, and I was like, oh, well, that's perfect for someone who's going through the things she does. Yay. Like, my brain is constantly like, danger, here's all these terrible things that could happen. So I wrote her thought spirals exactly the way I feel them, and I had a few people who have been through, unfortunately, similar circumstances to her, and they were like, "Wow, you really captured this." And I was like, "I'm so sorry."
Like, oh, did that hit a little too close to home?
Yeah, a little close.
What would you hope readers take away from Danger and Dominance?
I would hope, like I said, I like that David comes around to being able to bend the rules without and accepting that it's okay, without feeling like he's thrown his entire personality and moral code out the window. I would like them to take away the idea of it's kind of kindness, like emotional kindness. Cassidy's going through a lot, and sometimes people don't react the way that we think they should in certain situations, or be like, well, I wouldn't react that way. I like to think I've done a good job of explaining and showcasing why she does react the way they do. And I hope they like Brenda, because I had so much fun with Brenda. We
have a Brenda fan over here.
She's so funny.
She is Dave.
That's my.
Yes,
I wanna be
that's everyone's favorite.
Grandma,
yes. She's David's grandmother. She was originally put in there partly to give Cassidy a job. I had this whole conversation with another author friend who we were talking. She was like, oh my God, I almost ate some pot brownies before going to this job interview. They would have never hired me, da da da. And I was like, or they would have been like, you're hired. And I was like, oh, actually, I love that idea for a book. I'm going to use that. So in the book, Cassidy, before her job interview, to be this like companion to David's grandmother, which she doesn't know it's his grandmother that she's going to be interviewed by. Like, this is all set up.
Oh my God.
But the roommate of so she's living with in the house with one of the security guys and his brother does farmers markets and baked goods, but left some pot brownies next to the fridge. She didn't realize what they were. She thought they were just brownies, ate a couple.
Oh boy.
Got a couple. Head for breakfast, because she had a rough night. So she's like, brownies for breakfast. You know what? Yeah. And because the guys have told her multiple times, and if you see anything, just take the food, all good. So she goes to this interview and she's like, oh my God, something's wrong. And but they show up for the interview, and as soon as his he's there with his grandmother, like doing the interview, and he's like, something is wrong. He's like, are you high? And she's like, yes.
Maybe a little bit.
And his grandmother goes, you're hired.
That's my kind of woman.
That's my kind of woman. And his grandmother belongs to like a spicy book club. She's chased off numerous of her companions for over the most recent one, because she said that the woman was too uptight because she didn't want to read the Hugh Cow romance that the book club was reading. And then she told and then David got all like, and she's like, you need to do something about your butt stick. Take it out. And it's like,
I just love his reaction to her mouth.
It's so much resignation, just so much like aggrieved resignation.
And that's hilarious. Oh my God. I think we do need a Brenda spinoff.
I have had so many readers request it, and I'm like, clearly this is going to be something I have to come up with. I have no idea what I'm going to do with
Is Brenda telling you? Because I feel like that would be.
I mean, she's already. Like I said, she's supposed to be in books 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. She's David's grandmother, and then she's the grandmother of the heroine of book 2.
Yeah.
And then that was going to be it. Now I'm like, obviously, she's got to stick around for the whole series.
That's right.
Because I think my readers would riot if I put her in 2 books and then was like, she's done. That's it.
Yeah.
And she is so much fun to write. So.
Oh my God. Off the top of your head, if you know,
yes.
How many books is the series going to be?
The Black Fox Security Doms is going to be 6 books. Then I already have an idea for the next series will be 5 or 6 books, and it's about there's 2 teams at the security firm. Wow. So it'll end up being 11 or 12 books total set in Pittsburgh in this arena. And then I don't know what I'll do after that, but yeah, it's going to be 6 books total for the first series.
And I'm assuming each book is going to be based on a different character.
Yeah, different couple. Different couple, but it's the team. I mean, one of the things that I really like about doing the big groups of friends and family, or in this case, a security team, is I like being able to see what's happening with the couples afterwards. Mm-hmm. And this way we get to keep up with them. We get to see what's going on. We get to see the relationship develop. One thing that I don't normally do is my books do not usually end with an engagement ring or a wedding. They end after I love you, because the story continues. Yeah. And it usually continues throughout, because this is why I write in the same world, so that I can continue watching these characters go together. You do get to see a lot of them get married eventually, just not in their own book. They'll be, the other main characters will be like bridesmaid and groomsmen in their book or stuff like that. Or
it's not like a main
wedding
storyline. It's kind of like a side plot.
Exactly. Okay. So you still get to see it, but just not in their book, because I like watching the relationships develop. Yeah. And I'm a slow burn kind of girly. Not all my books are slow burn, but some of them are. But even if they're not like physically slow, the characters aren't physically slow burn, emotionally they are. It takes them a while to get through it. To give you an idea, my husband and I were together for 4 years before we got engaged. So my characters move a little faster than that, but I like the relationships that take time. And I don't personally, I think I know like one person who had a very whirlwind, met each other and got married within a year kind of relationship. And so I'm like, to me, I find it more relatable if the characters are taking their time a little bit.
Yeah. It's if it makes you feel better, my husband and I were together for 4 years before we got engaged too. Yep. So I wholeheartedly understand the slow burn, taking it easy, taking it slow. But everyone has their own pace, of course.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Do you have a timeline for the next book? I know you say you don't write.
So, so like I said, I go back and forth between the historical and the contemporary. So the Duke's Indecent Match comes out in October. That one's finished. It's being edited. I'm working on a side anthology story right now, but when I'm done with that, I'll be working on Cuffs and Cupcakes, which is book 2 of the Black Box Security Dogs.
Oh my God, Cuffs and Cupcakes.
Cuffs and Cupcakes.
Was that title revealed already? Or?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna be like, oh my God, we got the title wrong. No.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I announced all the titles. I was very proud of them, so I announced them all earlier this year. But I think I've only announced them in my Facebook group, though. I don't think it was like a. Yeah, so you guys got the first public announcement.
We're cool, guys. Look at that. Cuffs and Cupcakes. Yes. I love
She's
that
a bakery
title.
owner.
Oh my God, I love that. I'm so excited for that. Oh my goodness. All right, awesome. Well, I know you have we have a lot of books that we want to talk about, but your next one, your most popular, is called Third Wheel.
Yes.
In the Masters of Marquise series.
Yes.
Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Masters of Marquise.
And it's book number 9.
Yes.
Which is a very long.
It is a very long series.
So it's not here, but I'm sure we can add a photo in the video to see the cover. But tell us what that series is about, what that book is about. It's 9 books, so walk us through it.
So the Master of Marquis series is my second series set in DC. So Marquis is the sister club to Stronghold, which is what my first series was centered around. So the second series, the characters go to Stronghold a lot, but I try to keep it a little bit more centered around Marquis, which is if you read, I love small town romance. If you read small town romance, there's always a diner that everyone comes to and you all see each other at the diner. That's Marquis' bar. That's their diner. And so they hang out at the bar. There's a bartender that's always there that doles out advice. He's another fan favorite character. And I think the reason Third Wheel was so popular is because these characters, 2 of the characters, Kincaid and Zach, were introduced back in the previous series, the Stronghold Doms. And Kincaid was, we knew was bisexual from the moment that he was introduced, but Zach was not. And it was towards the end of that series that some of the characters started realizing that there was something going on between the 2 of them. So we spent the entire Masters, because they're the last book, so we spent the entire Masters of Marquis series watching them slowly getting together and then breaking up. And then, so they have just gotten back together. And Zach has a friend, Amy, and we've watched her through the entire Master of Marquis series. She's a side character, and she has a really shitty fiance. And I think they get engaged during the series. I don't think they're engaged at the beginning. His boyfriend becomes fiance, and he sucks. He just sucks. And she's settling, and it's very clear that she's settling, and because you're seeing this play out through the eyes of the other characters. And so, but she and Zach are best friends, and there's all this build up to it. And so their Third Wheel starts with her wedding day, and she gets a call for first she finds out from the best man that her groom is not there.
Oh no.
And then she gets a call from the groom. He is in Vegas with one of her bridesmaids, who she also realizes is missing. They just got married. And he tells her that, he's like, Noelle told me, she's like, Noelle revealed to me that you've been cheating on me with Zach, which she wasn't. But, you've been cheating on me with Zach, da-da-da-da. Now I'm married to Noelle, middle fingers everywhere. And she's in her dress. She's in her gown. Yeah. So, of course, one of her bridesmaids goes running to get Zach, and Kincaid comes with him. And so and then the groom is like, you've got by the time I get back from my honeymoon with Noelle, you need to be out of the house. So she has nowhere to live. She just got left on her way. I was like, oh my God. So this was all inspired by a Reddit post, by the way.
Golden, my goodness, this is brutal. Jeez.
blame this chick's cousin, because this was all inspired by a Reddit post where this girl got on and was basically, you know, doing kind of a like, am I the asshole type thing, because she didn't want to talk to her cousin after she got a call from her cousin and her groom on her wedding day and they had eloped to Vegas, and I was like, I'm like, I don't even know if maybe it's not real, maybe it's just someone making up drama, but it feels real, and I'm using this to inspire poor Amy's story.
Gosh.
So she has nowhere to live. So Zach and Kincaid are like, you need to come move in with us. And so obviously she's broken up about it. And so it's about her kind of healing and them figuring out their relationship, and then realizing kind of that actually all three of them work really well together. So this was my first MMF book, which I think appealed to a lot of people. Like I said, a lot of people were already invested in Zach and Kincaid. A lot of people were really invested in Amy getting a happily ever after. And then the fact that it was like the three of them together, and I shared that prologue of her wedding day like everywhere that I could, because I'm like, I understand. Like this TikTok ate it up.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's a brutal start to a book. But it would make me want to read more, of course.
Right?
So
I'm like, oh, it's whenever something's really rough, you're like, but I need that person to be happy.
And now you're invested. You're in the story.
Yes.
You're on that journey with that person.
Yes.
Can you the series itself, does it follow this main character, or is it like different?
It's different couple. Yeah, it's different couples through the whole thing, and it is a group of. It's actually two groups of friends. Okay. This one is kind of interesting because it's two group of friends who end up coalescing into one big group of friends by the end of it. But yeah, so it's, you know, all the characters as you're going through. You get to see, like, the first book is called Bondage Buddies, and it's about a single mom and kind of a playboy dom and friends with benefits, don't catch feelings. And then of course she catches feelings and then is like, we have to break up, I'm starting to get feelings for you. And he's like,
that's not how that works.
Actually, I don't think I'm ready for that.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. So yeah, each one, and he's best friends with like Zach and Kincaid, and they've been friends since previous books. So you get to see these two groups of friends kind of like, and Dami is part of a different group of friends. So like, and Amy's part of a different group of friends. So it's like all these people just kind of coming together, which I really enjoyed. I think, which is also one of those things where I think as we get older, like my heroes and heroines in this book are in like late 20s, early to mid 30s for the most part. And I think as we get older and it gets more difficult to make new friends, that was also something I kind of wanted to explore with the series.
Awesome. So, well, so this is the 9th book in the series, right? So are there any like new themes or character dynamics that you put in this new book to make it kind of more fresh? Because it's a long series. Yeah. So people that are committed to the which is, you know, commitment, obviously, but are there any like new, like fresh ideas or angles that you take to keep the story moving and keep?
I think that MMF was probably one of the biggest parts of it. The fact that, because like I said, I've done MFM before, where like the girl is kind of the focus of everything. So the fact that the two men were also involved with each other. And people had been rooting for them for a really long time. So that added a whole new set of things that I could do also with the characters. Emotionally, physically, like all of that. And then I was able to, because also there's two men, that also adds in an entirely new set of things that I could do with them, with the heroine. One thing that Marquee does is Marquee as a club is centered around the 2nd floor where there's like a stage and people can go, and it's very like voyeur exhibitionist, and people sit around in the booths and you can close the curtains or you can open them and you're watching what's happening on the stage. And so that's something I tried to incorporate, one scene of people being there for the show into every one of the books. And normally what's happening on the stage is reflective of what's happening in the book. So for the Femdom book, there's a Femdom scene happening on stage. For this book, there was a throuple performing on the stage while they were in the booth. So there's kind of that continuity of like, there is this kind of scene in every book, but then also it changes, you know, what the scene is changes based on what the themes of the story are.
Awesome. It adds like a new little idea, which is awesome. How many books are remaining in this series?
For Danger and Dominance?
For the Masters of Marquise.
Oh, that one's done.
It's
Yeah,
finished.
That's finished. So
Okay.
yeah, Kincaid is actually, he's one of the main characters in the series, and he is helping Black Fox open a Washington, D.C. office.
Oh, so that's where that crossover.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's actually the one who escorts Cassidy during Third Wheel, or he escorts Cassidy up to, which is when we first meet David.
Oh, okay.
Kincaid does not like him at first.
Okay.
Because he can tell that David's a little bit like iffy about Cassidy and this whole situation, and he's very protective. So, but yeah, it was a fun book to write. So yeah, I do like to like kind of lead people's, like, you don't have to read every book, but if you do, you just get a much fuller story. Right. And so in Third Wheel, you know, as Kincaid has this stuff going on with his new roommate, Amy, and his boyfriend, they're all trying to figure out their dynamics. And at the same time, he's helping open this new firm, and he's got to worry about Cassidy, who's being harassed and stalked, and then taking her up there, which allowed for some really interesting stuff, because, you know, having him out of the house for a little bit while Zach and Amy are there. Yeah. There's also, I mean, you know, it gave me a lot of fun emotional dynamics to play with too.
Well, there's a lot of ways you can take it, because there's so many characters involved, and like people are demanding their own stories, you know, so you have a lot to play with, which is really cool. Awesome. All right, let's pivot a little bit to your historical romance. It's the Duke's Indecent Scandal.
Indecent,
sorry. And you have, first of all, the covers. Can we talk about the covers? You have a more discreet-ish version, and then the one with the, I'm assuming he's the man. Yes. Talk to us about, well, okay, hold on. I want to know the covers. How did you decide on the covers?
Well, so I've been doing some of the more discreet-ish covers for a little bit now. I really like the look of the cameo on them. I wanted it to feel very much like the old, I really liked like the old leather bound with the embossed, right. So I kind of wanted it to harken back to that. And I've had that on a few covers, and then I had the idea of, I do like having the people on the covers too, so you can like kind of look at them and see them. And so I had the idea of putting kind of almost like a cameo-like frame around the hero, rather than the covers that I had traditionally been doing with people on them. And then I wanted it to be basically the exact same design, except with the discreet cameo versus the man in the middle.
It's a beautiful cover.
Thank you.
It's so beautiful.
They make me happy.
They make me happy just by looking at them. So tell us what the book is about, because I know this is book one of the series. So yeah, walk us through it.
Yeah, so this is book one of the Indecent Dukes series, and it's really written for people who loved the Bridgerton TV shows. Oh. It's Bridgerton. I like to describe it as Bridgerton, but with spankings and a mystery. So basically, so this is set in the same world as my other historical romances. So I really wanted to write a series with dukes, but in order to have, and I had ideas for 7 books. So in order to write a 7-book series about dukes, I was like, it would be notable if there were 6 young, handsome dukes running around who need brides. So how do I make it so that it makes sense that they are set? Like, either I have to create a new world and start a whole new world for this series, or I have to have it make sense in this world that no one has mentioned in any of the prior books, that there are 7 young unmarried dukes running around. So I murdered all their fathers in a terrible gunpowder hunting lodge explosion, fire, and accident, except for it's not an accident. As they discover.
Very brutal. Yes. Okay.
So now we have 7 new, just out of mourning, young, handsome. So in my previous book, in the previous series that connects to this, that's where the terrible hunting lodge explosion happens. We've lost 7 older dukes, but that means we now have 7 new dukes, and they're fresh out of mourning for this series. They need wives and heirs. And so it is the first season that they are on the market, as it were. which is causing quite the flurry. And at the same time that they are doing this, they've realized that their fathers were murdered, that it wasn't an accident, and so they are trying to find out who killed their fathers. So a little bit of mystery and suspense. It is definitely more like heavily focused on the romance and the characters. So I wouldn't call it like romantic suspense. I would call it suspense romance, just because the emphasis is on the romance. Okay. But there is the mystery. We get a new clue or two every book. This particular one is Ugly Duckling and Best Friend's older brother. So he has not seen her since she was like 14 and super skinny and acne and all this stuff. And also she has a narcissistic mother who is very much not interested in having a daughter who outshines her. So deliberately, so think like Penelope Bridgerton if her mother was like deliberately trying to make her, instead of just thinking that she's doing the right thing, like deliberately trying to undermine her. So her mother is very much like dresses her in clothes that are out like not as fashioned, that make her figure look less fashionable, less beautiful to what the current fashion is, dresses her in colors that are not flattering to her, is constantly critiquing her. Like she can't say anything without being critiqued. And so she doesn't speak much at all really to people. So she comes off as very shy. Her brother, who is one of the new dukes, who has not been around as much and, grew up with this dynamic and is very much the golden child, like really doesn't realize. And so starts off the book bemoaning to his best friend. It's like, I have to find a wife and I have to find a husband for my sister who's plain and she doesn't talk and she doesn't like
great.
Right. Yeah. And his best friend is like, well, she should marry me. And he's like, no. It's just like immediately no. It's like, no, she's too plain and dull to keep your interest, and I'm not going to have you hurting my sister's feelings just because you're a little rakish runaround. Like he's protective, but it's also like, dude.
I wouldn't know if I should feel like complimented or insulted.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But he is, I mean, like he really, like he doesn't realize, like, and also, they've grown up, he's used to seeing his sister in a certain way. Yeah. So my favorite moment in this is that Gregory, our Duke, runs into this beautiful girl in the library, not dressed very fashionably, but she's beautiful. And he is on the run because the women have been like mobbing him. And he's like, I just need a break. So he goes to the library during this ball, and this beautiful young woman is there, and she doesn't mob him immediately. And he's like, oh, she doesn't know who I am. I can flirt with her. Like I can like do my normal thing, and it'll be, just for a minute, just to feel like myself kind of thing.
Just take a break.
And Tiffany, of course, recognizes him immediately. Like she knows that that's her brother's best friend, but she also immediately realizes that he doesn't recognize her. And then she realizes that he's flirting with her, and she's just like, what's happening? Like, this is unreal, and he's attracted enough to her that he decides to kiss her. So when he kisses her, there's an entire group of people come in looking for a different couple, mind you. They're actually not looking for Gregory and Tiffany. Another couple has absconded during the ball, and they're looking for them. But they come in just as he and Gregory and Tiffany are kissing, and she stumbles trying to pull away from him, and they both fall over. So now like she's on top of him on the floor in front of everybody. And then her brother comes in and is like, I told you to stay away from my sister, punches him. And so like, it's like a whole thing. And of course he's like, well, if you told me that she, and so then it gets into a whole thing of like, all of his friends are like, I'm sorry, you think your sister's plain? Like, she's actually very, like, have you actually looked at her? She's actually pretty. Like she is, the dress could use some work, but she's not bad looking, bro, kind of thing. But it's enough of a scandal that, of course, they have to get married. So they do, the whole book then is them stuff with her mother, stuff with them. Actually, they put about a tale that it's a love match, but that her brother was trying to give her first full season. So now they're pretending to be a love match in front of the ton, but they're not actually a love match, but they're falling in love, and they can't admit it because, like, it's like, wait, does the other person have feelings for me, or is this just part of the act? And then dealing with her mother, who is of course continuing to try to undermine her, because her mother wanted her to marry well, but Tiffany is now going to outrank her mother
And she doesn't
because
want
as a
that.
current Duke's
Mhm.
wife. So it's a lot. Like, so there's a lot going on.
Mhm.
And then of course they get a big clue as to their first big clue as to follow for who murdered his father and others.
Oh,
So-
right. That
right. So that happened too. I know. It's like there's so much.
No, 'cause I was highly invested in this story dynamic between the two of them and the brother.
Yep. And it is, the
Forgot.
story is mostly that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wait, a clue.
Oh my God, wait, yeah, that's right. We're looking for the murderer.
We're looking
duh.
for the murderer.
What was your favorite part about writing this book?
Oh, probably. I mean, honestly, probably the whole beginning where Sebastian's like, my plain sister. And I'm just cackling because I like the catharsis. It's the payoff. It's the setup of like him talking about his plain sister, his friend being like, oh, actually a plain wife sounds great. Like, especially if she doesn't want to talk to anyone. Like, then she won't cheat on me. She won't, like, I can go sleep around, but she's not going to. She only talks to her brother and her mom, and she's plain. So no one will, like, I'll just turn out the lights. It'll be fun. Like, all this setup, and then him realizing, oh, she's actually quite pretty.
Mhm.
And then once we do the full makeover, and she gets the makeover treatment twice, a little bit for the engagement ball, and then like full on for the wedding.
It's like full Princess Diaries.
Yes, and it's behind, like her mom is, because of the way it works out, which I won't get too deep into, but because of the way it works out, her mom is unable to interfere. She gets that full moment, like walking down the aisle, like full belle of the ball. Everyone can see how beautiful she is. Like,
Can
and
this book be a movie?
I would love that.
I can see it vividly, like as a
Right?
movie. I would watch this in a
Yes.
heartbeat. It sounds so good.
And yeah, and so he, turns and sees her walking down the aisle and has that moment of like realizing that like the beauty that he saw was actually like she is just like jaw-droppingly gorgeous and like
Soon, I love that.
it's so good. So that payoff, that was the best part.
Oh my God, that I can see that. That's amazing. I would be like, ooh, I love writing this.
Yes. Oh my, and doing the setup for it was so much fun because the boys, they're just so, I'm like, you're so dumb. You're so, the whole time I'm writing it as they're having this conversation, I'm like, you're so dumb.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It sounds like a fantastic book. Oh my goodness. So you said the second book comes out in October.
Yes.
This year.
Yes. The Duke's Indecent Match. October 21st, I think so.
Okay.
Something like that.
We'll confirm
Yeah.
on that. How many? You said there's gonna be 7 books.
7 books.
So do you have a timeline of those books? And you like to go back and forth.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I release 4 main series books a year, so 2 historical and 2 contemporary.
Okay.
So the contemporaries come out in January and July, and the historicals come out in April and October.
All right.
So it's a fairly set schedule.
All right. Wow, I love that you're so organized. It's just, yes, I know what the months and the days are. Love that. All right, awesome. Well, I want to pull back a little bit and want to ask you, what has writing taught you about yourself? Because you have written so many books, so I'm sure you have gone through so many different revelations about yourself.
Yes.
So what is like the biggest thing that you've learned?
I get very frustrated by characters who are a lot like me. As I can see.
What, the sassy submissive? Is that what?
No, it's other characters. I actually, Angel is who I want to be in a lot of ways. She's very much like my goals in how she acts and how she is. I mean, like I act like her, but the self-confidence that she has is something that I did not have for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting better, but there's a lot of the time, like I'll write characters who, so Amy was very, in a lot of ways, I was like, oh, this one's hitting a little too close to home. She wants to help. She's a little too open. She's a little too helpful. She's a little too vulnerable. She's not good at standing up for herself. She's not good at advocating for herself. And it's one of those things where it's like, I know what she should do, and so I get really frustrated with her for not doing it. But at the same time, it's like, but I also know that I don't do that. So like, there's a lot of times where I'll start kind of like calling myself out. I work through a lot of things in my books that I'm working through. Fears, toxic friendships, Noelle, the bridesmaid that elopes with Amy's.
We don't like her.
Yeah, she is literally the most hated character I've ever written. And someone asked me if she was based on anyone, and I was like, no comment. It's like, I don't know anyone personally that's done anything quite this bad, but are some of the things that she does perhaps based on real life experiences?
Probably,
Yeah.
maybe. That's for me to know and for you to not to know.
Let's just say I can't come up with everything myself.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. All right. If you can go back all the way to 2012
Oh gosh.
and give yourself advice, what would it be?
I think to believe in myself more. And this is partly just because I do think it still holds for today. It was a very different book world back in 2012. Indie authors were not considered real authors. I struggled with imposter syndrome still am, but like really badly struggled for years. And no matter what goals I achieved, I would frustrate my husband very much because I would constantly refer to when I'm a real author. And I'd been writing for 6 years, like I had an agent, I had a traditionally published book that was in Barnes and Noble, and I still felt like I couldn't call myself a real author. And I just kept moving the goalpost of when that was going to feel like. And it was very hard in the beginning because of the stigma against being indie. I think there's still a little bit of that today. It's not nearly as bad as it was. But I think that if I could tell anybody anything at the beginning, is that if you wrote a book, you're an author. Like that was it. That
They're
was the
your
job.
words. Yeah.
They're your words, and no one can take that. Once you wrote it, like that was it. That's even if you never make a full-time living, which most won't and don't. If you never write another book again, you're still an author.
It's still your book,
and literally, like, I looked up the statistics for this for a keynote speech that I did recently. It's 82% of Americans want to write a book. Less than 1% will actually finish and publish a book.
Really?
Less than 1%.
Oh my God, those numbers are crazy.
They are crazy.
Wow.
But especially if you get into book spaces and you're suddenly surrounded by other authors, it can be really difficult to realize what an amazing thing you've already accomplished with one book.
Yeah.
And I know, like, for me, especially at the beginning, it was very much, I did not feel like a real author. I did not feel accomplished. I knew I was writing. I knew I was making money. I knew people were reading them. I knew people loved the books, and yet it didn't feel like it was something that I had done. And I wish that I could have felt that a little sooner.
Well, I hope you feel that now, because
it's
you've gotten a lot of
me
love.
over a decade.
Yes. Well, they say better late than never.
Yes.
But I'm sure you've gotten so much love for your books, and I hope you take that and you feel it internally, like, yes, this is I am an author. I did that.
I am, and I am one of the very, very lucky few, and it is very few, and I understand that, and that's something that I would love to say to new authors, is that when you're in these spaces, you're going to be surrounded by people who are doing this full time, and you don't know what their circumstances are. Like, you don't know if they are full-time authoring because they have a partner that's providing for them, or parents that are providing for them, or even if you do know, if like mine, I am the provider. Like, that's, my husband just started back up work recently, but for 5 years I was the only income in the house, and I know that a lot of people look at that, and absolutely, it's very aspirational. Absolutely, I love my job, I love what I do. And at the same time, it's not going to be for everyone. I happen to enjoy marketing. I happen to enjoy admin. I happen to enjoy a lot. Like, I'm enjoying running my business. And it's not just about the writing, because at this point it is running a business. It's not just about the writing. And it's not an easy thing to do, being full-time. And there are times when it's really scary.
But that's awesome that you actually love it. I know a lot of authors, they find it so... they find it so scary because they're like, oh, I thought I just had to write my book. Yeah. But instead they're like, no,
but you can do that. And I think I think when you get into these spaces and you're surrounded by other authors and you're looking at people who are full-time, and you don't realize that you're in this little bubble where that's seen as normal, and it's actually not normal at all. it is actually not like I think it's something like 4% of authors are able to become full-time authors.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but when you're at conventions, when you're surrounded by them, you can't see the forest for the trees.
Right.
And I just hate people feeling bad about themselves and not being able to acknowledge the accomplishments that they have made and seeing how far they've come and seeing this amazing thing that they did just by writing one book, much less multiple. Like if you keep doing it, like you've already beaten so many odds. And I hate the comparison game. So,
well, you kind of already touched on this a little bit, but I have one last question for you. If you can give one piece of advice to aspiring authors or even readers who are thinking about writing a book, what would you tell them?
Follow your own individual path. And it does tie in very neatly with what I just said, because if there was one way to find success as an author, we would all be doing it. Yeah. But it is from what we have seen over many years now, it is very individual. What works for someone might not necessarily work for you. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean you won't be successful. It means that way didn't work for you. That's right. And there's a million other ways that could. And so it's about finding what works for you. It's about finding what works for you sustainably, because I will say it doesn't work. Like I just said, these things don't work for everyone, but for like 99% of the authors that I have seen over the past 13 years who are still writing, the main things are perseverance and not giving up. I mean, which is kind of the same thing, but in my head they're different.
They go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand.
Yes.
Like you have to. Emotionally, it's like don't give up, and then perseverance is like the act of continuing to do the thing. Yeah. Because I do see people who are persevering, but they've given up. And I see people who are like, I haven't given up, but they're not doing the thing anymore. They've stopped. So to me, I'm like, you do need both. And you don't know what the future holds. And you don't know what's going to happen with your books in the future. Yeah. And I think very clear examples of that. Bridgerton is a very clear, I read Bridgerton over a decade ago. And it wasn't Bridgerton then. And I mean, granted, it was already doing really well, obviously, but like, I'm sure that 10 years ago, Julia Quinn had no idea what it would become, and neither do any of us. And so instead of, I feel like people put so much pressure on new releases to like, oh, my debut book has to do so well. It doesn't. It doesn't. It can totally flop, and you can still have a super successful long career. And I wish new authors would not put so much pressure on themselves, and that they would just, and I know it's hard, especially with the comparison and being around the author spaces, but if we could all take a deep breath and realize that we're all on our own individual paths, and they're all going to look different. Yeah. And you got to find the one that feels good for you.
What a beautiful answer. I love that. What a way to conclude this conversation. Oh,
yay.
Oh my gosh. Golden Angel, thank you so much for talking to us.
Me.
I hope you enjoyed it.
I did.
If for our viewers and your new readers, where can they go to find you, and how can they support you and your books?
Oh gosh. Well, you can buy the books.
Of course.
Yes, of course. But my website is www.goldenangelromance.com. I am on pretty much most social media, but the two places I am actually active are in my aforementioned Facebook group, which I believe is called Golden Angels Readers. I've changed the name recently, which I shouldn't have done. I'm pretty sure it's called Golden Angels Readers. And then on my TikTok, which is Golden Angel Romance.
All right. Awesome. And for everyone watching at home, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Tales in Focus. You can find TBR Trio on Instagram and TikTok at TBR Trio. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any future author interviews, events, and anything bookish related. We will see you next time to see what other tales TBR tells. Yay! Awesome! Cut!